think we got her up and going now. So if you are interested in following along on the live stream, we usually do just the first segment of the show, just first 10 minutes or so, the what you ought to know. And if you want to follow along with the rest of the show, then you got to come over to the broadcast side. You got to come over to the app or to our online listen live link. So we do have a lot to get to today, a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of discussion about this Project 2025 as it relates to presidential politics. Is Trump for it? Is Trump against it? The left, and if you listen to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the crazies, that Project 25 is essentially Hitler's Mein Kampf reimagined, and it's the worst thing that's ever happened. It is this level of insanity that you've never heard of before, and the reality is it's neither and none of the above and all of that. It has nothing to do with any particular presidential candidate. It has nothing to do with any of the candidates who ran besides Trump. It has nothing to do with any party, the Republican Party specifically. Now, many of the people who worked on it and wrote some of the policies are, former Republicans or current Republicans or whatever, but it's not this dystopian project to drive all regular working Joes into slavery and enrich the elites. It's actually a fairly down-to-earth approach to dealing with creating prosperity and reining in government control over the next several years through politics and putting the proper people in place. There was a book written many, many years ago. I want to say it was Jim Collins that wrote it, where he talked about, I don't know if it was was it Good to Great? I can't remember the name of the book, but he wrote the book several years ago, and he talked about getting the right people on the bus is important, but just as important is making sure that people are on the right seats on the bus. For example, if Donald Trump wins in November and he starts picking his cabinet, it is wise to have someone who has extensive military experience and a deep understanding of the military-industrial complex and all of those things to be a part of his cabinet. But just having them in the cabinet is useless if they're not in the right spot in the cabinet. For example, if you put someone who has extensive military experience and understanding of how the military works and things like that, but you make him the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development instead of the Secretary of Defense, you're not really getting the best bang for your buck, so to speak. And that's kind of one of the things that this Project 2025 talks about, is that it's not just about getting the right people on the bus, but it's also getting the right people in the right seats on the bus and moving things in the right direction that way. And so there's a lot to talk about there. I want to break down some of what this Project 2025 actually is. Read some of the information from the foreword. Talk about the pillars of it. It says they've got 4 pillars. It's the particular book that or document that they put together. It's like 900 pages. And it kind of puts an overview of what they want to work on. Then the second pillar is the personnel database, the people that would not only be helpful in developing policy, but potential candidates for these various positions and things like that. The third pillar, of course, the Presidential Administration Academy, which is this is how they describe it. It is, quote, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition for the newcomer. This will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. For the experienced, we will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. So it's essentially, hey, this is how government works. This is how they're going to try and corral you, force you into positions, or force you into places that you maybe wouldn't want to be. This is how they're going to use the administrative state against you, all that kind of stuff. And I think not only for Donald Trump, but for whoever is elected, let's just, for the sake of argument, there is, at the first debate, there is a nuclear attack, and it kills Trump, Kamala, Tim Walz. It takes out J.D. Vance, half of the Republican leadership, half of the Democrat leadership, all the consultant. Like we are down to like a bunch of nobodies that have never heard anything about how to run a government, especially one the size of the United States, at all. And that's what we're left with. This agency, this idea, this academy would be designed to go, hey, here's how this works. Here's how the senators in the Senate are going to try and corral you into signing legislation or a budget that you maybe wouldn't like, or this is how the House is going to try and railroad you on an impeachment or things like that. And so I think there would be some very, very valuable information for anybody who would be elected, and not just in 2024, but come 2028. Let's just say, for example, Trump wins. 2028 comes along, J.D. Vance decides, you know what, I hate this whole Washington thing. I thought I wanted to do this. I don't. I'm out. I'm not going to run. And it's, somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy or maybe Ron DeSantis or Kerry Lake in Arizona, or somebody comes along and says, I'm going to do it. And they step up and they win. This would be helpful for them as well. So it's an interesting approach. And then the last pillar is this, what they call the playbook, which is they are creating these teams of people and working on actual transition plans to move out the bad guys that are part of the administrative state. The one of the things that Trump ran into during his first term was the Obama holdovers. The ones that, they worked for Obama, but they were good guys. They were appointed by so-and-so, or they were recommended by such and such, or whatever. And it's dealing with those and making sure that those kind of people, and it's just one part of it, but other parts of making that plan, to have a plan in place to move as soon as, in their words, as soon as the president utters, "So help me God." So we'll talk a little bit about this Project 2025, because it's really not the horrible, scary thing that the media would have you believe. These things are just wise in general, and quite honestly, whether it's the conservatives, the liberals, the socialists, the communists, the libertarians, or whoever it is, every political party, every political persuasion, even if it's not a party, but just an ideological movement, should have something like this in place to prepare for the transition to a new presidency, a new administration, a new leadership. This is just wise, right? We do this in our businesses. If we're hiring someone for a new job, right? We usually have the person who's leaving, if they're on a good relationship or whatever, or they're retiring, we have them kind of help the new guy out and get them prepared and ready to do it and learn all the things and know and understand all of the intricacies of, down the hall is Sally's office. And Sally, sometimes she's kind of a crotchety old lady and she's not very nice, but Sally knows everything there is to know about this particular process within the company. And she's really good at it, and she knows she's really good at it. And she actually quite likes helping people with it. So if you get her in that, she's really nice, and you just kind of got to know how to deal with Sally, right? And so having someone like that in the wings, waiting to help the new person transition into the various positions, and not just the president themselves, but all of the cabinet members. Let's just say Trump says, "Look, I don't need that. I know, I've seen it. I witnessed it. They screwed me the last time around with all the Obama holdovers. They Fauci got me. The Karen, whatever her name was, Dr. Birx or whatever, they all promised that they were going to be this and be that, and none of them were, and all that. But so I don't need any of that. However, I'm nominating so-and-so for the Secretary of Defense. I'm nominating such and such for the Attorney General. I'm nominating so-and-so for the Housing and Urban Development. And so I'm going to send them all to this personnel academy, and I'm going to let them hear all of the things and learn about all of the things and transitioning their departments towards moving us forward in a positive direction. So there's actually a lot to this that is actually very positive. So we'll get into it as we continue that and a whole lot more here on The Schmidt Show on News Radio 102.9 KARN.